All right, and welcome back to the OU Update. I'm your host, Dash. We'll get Chris on here in just a few minutes. But remember, before we get going, hit that like and subscribe button. Let us know how we're doing on the channel. Like I said, we're a brand new show, trying to do the best that we can. But tonight we'll be talking about recruiting. We'll be talking about how OU just got voted the greatest program of all time. So without further ado, we'll be starting here in just a few moments. If there's anything you would like to hear about on the channel, let us know. We try to cover everything that we possibly can. So stick with us. We're doing the best. Tonight, again, like I said, we're going to be talking about OU and being voted the greatest football program of all time. We'll be talking about a little bit of recruiting stuff. Not much. Obviously, National Recruiting Day is a few weeks away. And we'll be talking about Brent Venables. You know, is he the coach? Is he ready to take on the not only the Sooners, but is he ready to move into the Big 12, or excuse me, the SEC? So we'll be talking about that here momentarily. So just waiting on my co-host. I hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful Saturday afternoon. Lots of football going on, I know, but we'll get him going here just real quick. And we'll get started. Lots of news to cover. Lots of news to cover. All right, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, it looks like we have a special guest co-host tonight. Always something new with this channel, for sure. Always something new. How you doing, buddy?
Good, you?
Doing excellent. Doing excellent. Hey, before we get into the rest of the OU stuff, we can put to bed any Caleb Williams rumors. He just packed up his stuff from Norman, and he's leaving. So wherever he goes, I wish him well. No more talk about Caleb Williams. He's gone. But let's talk about one of the biggest announcements this week, and that is Oklahoma voted by the College Football News as the greatest football program of all time. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's kind of like Bob Stoops. Bob Stoops nailed it on the head. You know, when Lincoln left and they did that big press conference, he's like, look, like this program has been around for a while and it's not going anywhere. And people are like, how are they voted, you know, the top college? When I say that, people that are not OU fans, they don't follow OU football, you know, they don't know the rich tradition that the university has. Like, they've been around for a while. They've been dominant in little spurts here and there, but they've always been consistent. You know, you want to talk about one thing is consistency with the football program.
Yeah. Just a bit of fact, out of 113 seasons that OU has played, they've had 11 losing seasons. 11. 41 seasons of 10 or more wins. 41 seasons of 10 or more wins. That's pretty phenomenal. I mean, we can go back and talk about that. Even to have 11 losing seasons during the Blake years is pretty. Even with the Blake years, you know what I'm talking about? That was one of the worst feelings OU Sooners had. I mean, and nothing against John Blake, love him, but you know, great recruiter. But I mean, to say that he only had, I believe he only had 3 losing seasons at the time he was there. That's pretty phenomenal. So out of 113 seasons, only 11 losing. That's why they were they're up there. They only edged Alabama by 7 points during this voting process. I get it. You know, Alabama has a lot of national championships, but from 1936 to 2021, when they've done this, 60 of those seasons, they were ranked in the top 25 and in the top 5 for most of those. That's a pretty good feat.
Yeah, well, and that's where, if people don't understand what we're talking about, they did a thing and they took the AP top 25 polls, and you got points for, you know, if you finish number 1 at the end of the season. They took these polls at the end of the season, or they took the AP polls from the end of the season.
Right.
And so if you finish number 1 at the end of the season, you got 10 points. Finish number 2, 9, 8, 7, 6. So if you finish 10th, you got a point, right?
Yeah.
So people, and that's what I was kind of getting at is people were probably like, how? Like, they've won 7 national championships. 7 national championships is a good amount of national champ, like, but they've been more consistent than any other program. And you talk about Alabama. Alabama, yeah, they have more national championships. They've held the #1 spot more. However, they've finished outside of the top 25 more than Oklahoma has.
Yeah.
So they've had those down years more than Oklahoma has. And that's what I talk about consistency.
Yeah.
OU has just been more consistent throughout the years. Have they been dominant every year? No. Have they been national championship worthy every year? No. But they've always had the talent to be up there in the top 10 at the end of the season. Is it always the season that you hoped it to be as an OU fan? No. But it's seasons that you can't complain about because there's other teams. Texas, look at them. They went 5-7. They've had a couple of down years now. And every year, all you hear about is Texas fans. Texas is back. Texas is back. Is Texas back? I mean, so OU fans, and we've talked about this multiple times, OU fans get greedy and they get complacent.
Yeah.
Listen, a 10-win season is a good season. No, you didn't win the national championship. No, you didn't win the Big 12 championship. You still had a good season. Granted, everything, especially with everything that went on, and now you can look back at it and it was okay. Was Lincoln Riley even in it the whole season? Was he preparing the team like he should have been doing? We don't know the answer to that, but I mean, it's still to go out and win 10, 11 games. I mean, you can't be mad about it. Like,
absolutely not. And hey, like I said, to be voted the greatest, the greatest program of all time, that's a pretty big accomplishment. So, like I said, I've been a Sooner fan all my life, except for that 1 year in high school when I dated a girl from Stillwater, and we all know why. I probably rooted for the Cowboys for that year, but that's neither here nor there. Brent Venables today at the basketball game, I mean, he summed it up. He's like, we've been the most consistent program in college football since 1999. This is the only program, only one and only program in college football when it comes to winning. I agree with that. But I'm going to ask you this. With that being said, what is it going to take now to push us to those national title games? Is this what we need? Is Venables the man to take us to those national championship games?
I mean, you want to say yes, but I mean, it's like you've said multiple weeks in a row now. Like, we haven't played a snap of 2022. We don't know what it's going to hold. You can already tell the direction that the team's going, and that's defense. You knew that when they hired Brent Venables to be the head coach. He has that defensive mindset. He has that defensive mentality, and it's the physical defense. It's not the speed D that OU has known the last couple of years with Alex Grinch. That's what his defense was known, speed D. Now, this isn't speed D. This is power D. This is up in your face, physical football. And, man, I mean, defense is going to take it. That has literally been you can go back to the years that we made the playoffs. Those years, our defense was not good. And you could just sit there and you could sit back and you can analyze and you could be like, oh, man, if we would have had even a top 50 defense, we probably would have been in a much better situation in those games than what we were. Not to say our defense was just outright terrible, but they were bad, especially the first couple of years where we were ranked in the hundreds on defense. And those are the moments where you get it, and we still made the playoffs. Right? So you get into those situations like, man, and you lose. You lose to a Georgia. You lose to Clemson. You lose to Alabama. You lose those playoff games, and you're just like, man, if we could have just had half the defense of what we had, like just any bit better, you would have think, man, that could have went either way. It could have come down to a field goal or to something different, but it came down to defense. And,
It did. It really did. It did.
Those defenses were just always so much better than Oklahoma. Like, our offense never really had problems scoring points. We still put up points in those losses. Not the points that we probably did throughout the season, but they were also on the field a lot. The defense was on the field way too much. I think so. I think that in order to get over that hump, to get back to a national championship, and you take it back to 2000, what won us that championship game? Defense.
Defense.
I mean,
Yeah,
that was a 13-2 ball game.
Yeah.
So it has to be defense, right? I mean, in my opinion, it has to be the defense. The defense is going to be what gets us over that hump. And you can see it already that is the direction that this team is going with. And we're going to talk about it, I know, but the transfer portal. We talked about the transfer portal last week and the week before, and we're going to continue talking about it because
the transfer portal is not, like we said, it's not going away, and we're going to be talking about that. I mean, for all intents and purposes of the transfer portal, we've really done really good. We're ranked 5th in transfers, and nationally ranked 5th on the transfers coming in. Again, you know me, I'm not going to get wrapped around stars on what these kids are ranked. Hey, but obviously LSU and USC are duking it out for number 1. We'll let them. I don't care. I mean, at the end of the day, I want to be competitive, and just like you talked about the defense, I think for us, a victory this year is just being ranked in the top 30, top 25 in defense. I think that's a huge, huge victory for OU. You don't have to be top 10 or anything like that, but we need to be top 25 at least. I think it's a huge victory.
So this is something, yes, 100%. If our defense comes out, I mean, and we talked about this when we were talking about it when we started our OU shows. One of the things we talked about was the defense. And man, it's gonna be there. Like, it has to be. Brent Venables has held a top 10, top 15 defense the last 8 or 9 years that he's been at Clemson. I said it in one of our first shows. His worst defense, I think, in the last 8 years was ranked 15th.
Yeah.
15th in the nation. If we can have a top, and you're talking about, hey, if we can have a top 30 defense, listen, if we can get the defenses that he's had at Clemson, which they're capable of, and you can see it with the transfers that they're getting defensive players.
Oh yeah,
they're getting defensive recruits. It was a big weekend for recruiting this year, this weekend, where they were holding top recruits for the 2022 class and the 2023 class, because we're still fighting for 2022. So, but I wanted to say this something last week, because it came out last week after the national championship. They always come out with the way too early top 25s, and I mean, they had them out literally 5 to 10 minutes after the game ended. The final buzzer, it wasn't 5-10 minutes later, they were already sending out the way too early top 25. And I looked at a guy from Fox, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, and ESPN's, and then I think there was maybe one more. None of them had OU in the top 15.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody is giving OU any credit. They are discrediting OU with the loss of Lincoln Riley, with the loss of Caleb Williams, with the loss of everybody that they were losing. And they are. I think they have, at the end of the day, I think maybe 4 defensive players returning, and I think maybe 4 offensive players returning. Now 5. Marvin Mims comes out and basically, without saying he's staying, says he's staying.
Well, he literally posted he showed something the other day where he's like, I just went through a Schmitty workout. That tells me he's staying. And B, he's like, he finally got a taste of what Schmitty's like. So, guys, Schmitty was our strength and conditioning coach for many, many years before he went to Texas A&M for a couple of years. So, you want to know what a Schmitty workout is, go ask some of the old timers during the early Bob Stoops.
I agree.
I talked about that on a show I did a couple of days ago, where I just did a quick post about what we'd be talking about today. And I hate, and I'm glad to see I'm not. I mean, I despise early. I'm okay with August, maybe late July polls, pre-polls like that. But you give me a poll in January or February, you're only basing it off of your fandom, I guess, or who you're biased towards. That's my feeling, because Athlon News just did the top the rankings for the Big 12, and they had OU second, which that's fine. Baylor, I get it. To be the man, you got to beat the man. We've talked about all that all the time. If Baylor's the defending champ, to be the number one, you've got to beat them. I get that. I'm cool with that. But you're basing it off, I get it, and you're basing it off transfers, you're basing it off recruiting. Listen, National Signing Day, I should say, is less than 2 weeks away. Believe it's February 2nd. We're going to know more about Oklahoma then, obviously. And like you just said, this weekend the campus has held lots and lots of top recruits. And to answer the guy who gave us a little hard time about Arch Manning not coming to OU, and we need to suck it up. And listen, we can say that about any recruit that anybody has tried to recruit. We don't know where they're going until they sign the dotted line. Jeff Lebby went and talked to Arch Manning this week. I don't know the outcome of that. That's a good sign. And even if Arch, we even said it, we don't know if Arch is coming here, and he probably won't. We probably, just like we said last show, we know he's probably not coming here. But to have him even mention, he's talked to Texas, he's talked to Oklahoma, he's talked to Ole Miss. I get it. I am just as happy with Nick Evers being the future of Oklahoma football. We know Dylan Gabriel's going to be here for probably a season.
They had Jackson Dart last week.
Yeah. So we don't know. We don't know. And I'm okay with Nick Evers. That is not a bad – people sitting there talking about Caleb. Guys, you haven't even seen Nick Evers play yet. And we're not going to be disappointed. Get rid of the stars. Get rid of thinking about the stars. We've seen it, and I've said it show after show after show. Those stars mean nothing at the end of the day when it comes time to play football. In college football.
But, Jackson, we talked about Jackson Dart. And then he turned around. I want to say that day he was in Norman, but they were posting about it. He was in Norman last weekend. We were talking about the possibility of, they were going after him and that there was talks about it. He was in Norman. He was in an OU uniform. He was visiting. He was here with the coaches. So that's not even out the window. Then I want to say I saw something else about them going after another 2023 prospect. Yeah. Listen, we're going to get players. We say this week after week. Like, people are worried, oh, Caleb's gone. Listen, yeah, you're right. Caleb's gone. It's come out. Reports have come out. It's either USC or LSU. Good riddance, man. Good for you. Do what you got to do. We're okay. We've got Evers. We've got Dylan. We've got people that are going to come in. People are going to still come to the University of Oklahoma. I was really trying to find, when we were talking about defense, man, they got 3 big defensive transfers just last week. Yeah. Within like a day or two of each other. I think one was from North Carolina. I was trying to find it. That's what I keep looking over.
There was one from Wyoming. I know there's a couple of cornerback. There was one from Wyoming, the kid from Louisville. And I'm sorry, his name escapes me. I should have written it down. But we've got, like you said, we got kids coming. I mean, right now we're ranked 8th in the national rankings as far as recruiting. We've moved up. We literally moved up from the whole fiasco of all these players losing. So, I mean, if you move from 10 to 8, and we're just a few behind Texas. And to be honest, Texas and Oklahoma are the only top 2 Big 12 teams right now in the top 25 in national recruiting. That says something. Oklahoma State's just outside. But Oklahoma State's lost more players than we're always talking about Oklahoma. But Oklahoma State's lost more players into the portal and hasn't signed any in return. So they've got zero. So I'm not worried about, again, recruiting or portaling. That's fine. I got a question for you. Just found, over the news this week, Gary Patterson has I guess, I hate saying the word signed, hired by Texas in a certain role. Does that, with them hiring Gary Patterson, does that hurt OU's chances of, we're kind of dominant over Texas the last few years. Does that hurt our chances of continuing to beat them? We know he's a defensive-minded guy. We know he is. Does that hurt OU's chances?
Man, listen, Gary Patterson, he did great things at TCU. Good coach. He, like I said, had a good record at TCU. But I mean, he didn't do anything great at TCU. TCU was never a bad off program to begin with. They got to the Big 12. All it did was help them with their recruiting, probably. And so I don't think it hurts. I don't think, obviously it's not going to make it easier. I mean, it's Texas. The OU Texas game is never going to be an easy game that you're going to go into anyway. His is more of an off the field presence. He's like the assistant to the head coach, or I was reading about it earlier, but I don't think it's going to affect the game. He'll probably have some input when it comes to, game planning, I imagine. But I don't think it's going to be a make or break against Oklahoma. I think, Oklahoma, Texas is always going to be Oklahoma, Texas. And, Texas had us on our heels. They went 5-7 and had us on the heels. Caleb Williams just came and blew it up. And I'm not going to sit here and say that they won that game solely on Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams played an amazing game. He had a lot to do with it. But if you go back and you watch those, the receivers won a lot of 50-50 balls. A lot of those big catches weren't hitting receivers in strides necessarily. He threw a lot of 50-50 balls that receivers went up and they got. So why did the receivers not get that credit, for some of that? Yeah. He played a great game. Don't get me wrong. I think it had a lot to do with the motivation, with the leadership in the huddle, and just getting out there. He was trying to prove himself, so he had a lot to prove. He had a lot to do with the winning of the game. But, Texas also, you can blame their coaching staff not making adjustments after halftime. You can look at OU's coaching staff. Maybe they made some adjustments at halftime to counterbalance what had been going on. Listen, OU was getting smoked. And, yeah, he came in. He had that long run. He threw some great passes. I love how he got rid of the ball so quick compared to Spencer holding on to the ball. But receivers made plays, too. So, OU Texas is going to be OU Texas.
Yeah,
let's not sit here and fool ourselves like one or two things going to make a difference, because, I mean, at the end of the day, when it's OU Texas, we've seen games where it's like, man, we're not doing that great. We're going to get blown out. Or they're not doing that great. We should blow them out. And there's been upsets, or there's been close games. And then you go into seasons and you're like, oh, man, this is going to be it's going to be a close game. Both teams are just like dead even with the defense and the offense. And, man, I don't really know how this game, I'm worried about it as an OU fan. I don't really know, which way it's going to go. And then the next thing you know, it's a blowout one way or the other. Like, yeah. That's just the way that this game goes. Like, and I don't think anything's going to change that. Especially a guy that's going to be an off-the-field presence. It'd have been different had he come in for a D coordinator or something on that line. But no, I really don't think it'll have a huge effect on it.
All right. Yeah, I don't either. I think, still greatest, one of the great. I mean, if at least in my mind, one of the best, if not the best rivalry in all of college football. Obviously, certain other conferences will disagree with me, but
I mean, you can't argue no matter who you like. It's top five. It's top five regardless of who you're a fan of. And yeah, to you and I, OU Texas, greatest college football rivalry ever. Ohio State is probably Ohio State, Michigan. Alabama, probably Alabama, Auburn. And, it's just everybody's going to have their thing. But listen, there's only a handful of games that you could sit there legitimately as a non-fan and say, these are the top 5 games. And you rank them however you want. OU Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Florida State. Some people want to say Miami, USC, UCLA. There's games all over, but there's only a handful of games that you can sit here and legitimately say, no matter who you're a fan of, that's your top 5 college football rivalries.
So the Big 12 this week, again, with lots of announcements, said in 2023 there'll be a 14. They're going to divide the divisions up again, or divide the conference up again, north and south, with BYU and Cincinnati, I think, going to the north, and Houston and UCF going to the south. OU obviously will be in the North Division again. With that being said, obviously we still don't know when OU and Texas are leaving. But do you think that's a good thing that there's, we're going to be playing against Cincinnati, BYU, UCF, Houston? Is that a good thing for us, or is it, are you ready to leave? Are you ready for, obviously we know 2022, they're pretty much staying in the Big 12. Are you ready for them to leave after that? Are you ready to see OU Texas in 2023 in the SEC, or what?
Regardless of whether I'm ready to see it, I still think that 2023 is still my year that OU Texas bounce and go to the SEC.
Yeah.
They're coming out and they're saying 14 teams in 2023. They're banking on OU Texas being here till 2025. I don't see it. If they're here in 2023, I don't think it's a bad thing. It is what it is. All it is they're still going to have the same amount of games. It's not adding or taking away anything. Right. At the end of the day, really, all you're doing is maybe taking away one of your cake schedule games. Your Western Wyoming State School for the Blind teams probably is like one of the only things that you're going to lose when it comes to that. They're adding a Houston team that's been solid. They're adding an SMU team that was great this year. They're adding a Cincinnati who's been great the last couple of years and they made it to the playoffs. So it's not hurting them to, that's going to be a huge
it'll
game.
be BYU, not SMU. Do you want to see OU play them? Do you want to see that just one time, just as a conference, or is it here nor there?
OU and Cincinnati?
Yeah.
I'd love to see OU Cincinnati. We saw OU Cincinnati years back.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the same Cincinnati team that is now. So, I think it'd be cool. I'm not against it. You could say it's neither here nor there, but it's definitely going to benefit them if they're the team that they have been. If Cincinnati continues to be a top 5, top 10 school in 2023 and OU plays them, it benefits them because if that's a win, if they win, that's a huge game. That's one of those top games. That's like Oklahoma State if they're in the top 15, Baylor if they're in the top 15. You're talking about a big schedule. If Texas is back in 2023, Cincinnati's up there. If you get Houston, that's up there. BYU had not a bad season.
UCF.
So I think these teams coming in, if they can continue what they have done, it can only benefit Oklahoma to be in those games.
Agreed.
Rather than playing a Western Kentucky or a Western Carolina, or some of these lower schools that are really just playing these games for the money.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of, part of me wants to see it. Part of me wants to see them play them just one time, just to like you said, benefit us maybe, and just to see if kind of keep some mouths, shut some mouths, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I still think 2020, and I'm with you, and I've said this since the middle of the summer last year when this was announced that this was happening. I still think 2023 is the year that they go. As a new college football fan, don't you get tired of playing the same teams every year with a few different mixed in? I mean, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you can say that, but at the same time, they're different teams. And, this is something we kind of talked about last week. This isn't the NFL. The NFL, you other than one or, a handful of players maybe leaving or retiring or, whatever, these are different teams. Every single year, you're getting a somewhat different team. So you're not playing the same team. Yeah, they got the same name, it's the same university, but when we go to play Baylor next year, they're going to have a handful of different players. We're having a crap ton of different players. Same thing. When you're in college, you're not necessarily playing the same team. So it's not really that you get tired of it. It's just, it's a different challenge. Every year you can't expect the same game or the same outcome, minus maybe Kansas.
she said, this is Tammy, by the way, saying going to the SEC will be more. Well, absolutely. I am ready. Like I talked about, having Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Auburn coming to Norman, it only benefits.
Oh, absolutely.
Only benefits the state. And yes, I'm ready for some new blood. I'm tired of playing Kansas. I'm tired of playing those. And I am ready. And maybe one of these days, one of my Oklahoma State fans will tell me why Oklahoma State's so mad, other than they're just mad. I don't get it benefits not only the state. Did we take Oklahoma State with us? No. Go be your own self. That's a whole nother rant. I don't want to get off on it. Before we go, I just saw something today, and this has me. Roy Williams posted a cryptic tweet on Twitter, something about a big surprise coming to Norman. And that was all it. So I don't know, is he going to be a coach? Is he coming to be a coach? Is he coming to be an advisor? I don't know. Hopefully we'll have more, and if I get more on that, I will let you know. But he's like, and he's got he did the eyeballs. Now, I don't know if that means a recruit. I don't know if that means something big's coming. Obviously, we know Lincoln Riley likes to use the eyeballs. Apparently now we're using the lock. Maybe that means something big, recruits coming. I don't know. But once I get a hold of that, I'll let you know. So next week, hopefully, we'll be live in a location other than here. So if something comes up, we'll let you know where we'll be live at. But truly appreciate. Hey, man, we did good. We hit almost.
We're
almost at 4,000.
Yeah, it was like, video, what was it? Three? Was it like 3.5? 3.5, right?
Yeah, we're almost at 3,600 now. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just got to keep. We just got to keep going, man. We just, we doubled our last one. We doubled it because we were at, I think, 1,500.
Yeah, we want to get the 4,500. So keep that in mind. And we gained over 100 subscribers. So hey, good on us. Well over 100 subscribers since the last video. So keep it up. Let us know how we're doing. At all times, we like your comments. Keep them clean for the most part.
Make sure you share it.
But I don't mind any smack talking. All right, guys, that'll do it for the OU Update Show this week. I'm Dash. This is Chris. Let us know how we did. Give us some feedback, and we'll see you next week. Have a good day.
Hopefully
Boomer
live.
sooner.
Boomer sooner, baby.